Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for our Work from Home Wednesday web sessions. Hopefully you're enjoying the content we're putting together and what we're working on here. This afternoon, we'll dig a bit deeper into the whole customer service world and the customer experience side of Microsoft Dynamics. And with me on our team today here is Thomas Young. He's graciously decided to join us, so we really appreciate his joining us this afternoon. Thanks, Thomas, for joining us. I'll just, hopefully my slides are working here and you can see the content. Quickly on the agenda for this afternoon, I think a few of the topics we're going to talk about here, and just based on some of the things we're seeing and conversations we're having with people, and especially now as things are starting to relaunch and reopen under a very different set of circumstances and different set of rules, regulations, and guidelines. It's important that people are starting to evolve and innovate on their customer service, what their customer service experience is, how that looks, and what are some of the pieces you need to put in place to supplement and support that. So drilling into that a little bit further, I think we'll just touch on the theme, the broader theme of collaboration, both inside, we'll say inside the company and outside the company, and using systems and different channels to create some ongoing engagement and dialogue with people that you're doing business with, and really getting into some of the things you can do with that. And Thomas will take us through a quick tour of Dynamics customer service, and we'll touch on some pieces of the virtual agents as well. Excuse me. So customer service during COVID, I think the first theme or topic we've noticed here is a ton of correspondence. Certainly people are, I know at first that was middle of March there, what was it, March 10th to about March 20th, everyone was, my inbox anyway, was filling up personally with the here's our COVID plan. So I think more communication is better than less, I guess, would be the theme here. And how do you do that in a streamlined, efficient, coordinated, and I'll say consistent way? Leverage things like some of the automation tools that are available to you, whether that's templated marketing automation platforms to blast out correspondence, leveraging your site and just being really clear, consistent, and upfront with your communications on your corporate site or sites. But then also, how can you look introspectively, I guess, and empower people to communicate amongst each other? I know even just in an organization of 25 people, it's different when everyone's working at home. So how do you communicate and make sure people aren't out on an island? And I think these are tools that maybe have been available to us before, and perhaps maybe the need to use them as much or as often is something that's the change. So the whole balance of power shifting around multi-channel and customer service. So I think what we're seeing is the advent of the 24/7 world, right? Where people want to get service for their items, whether that's a support request or a product request, on their terms, at their own pace, on their own time. So how do you support that? And then how do you think about this? If you caught our session last week around the social horsepower marketing social orchestration platform, I think there's a ton of opportunity to tie your customer service in together with your social media posting. So how can you just be available if people are spending a plenty of their time at home on the couch on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever they're hanging out digitally? How can you be there to support them, and how can they get in touch with you and support, create a support ticket or check on some of their work in progress, all of those types of things. I think the other thing just to be aware of here in general is the whole journey, or sorry, the learning experience, maybe a better way to say it, around video. So using Zoom and Teams on a regular basis it's changing. So how can video be used in a positive way to help create connections and resolve customer support is something I think we're seeing a lot of. So moving through that, I think this whole concept, this is a very, I think from a Microsoft product development and design concept, this is something that Microsoft is trying to involve across all of their product development, but really around four pillars of engaging customers, empowering people in an employee capacity, improving processes and optimizing the operation, and mining that data to evolve and transform products. Really, this is products, but I would argue products and service offerings as well. And how do you create feedback loops from a customer complaint to allowing someone in an employee customer service capacity to mine a database or a knowledge base of previous similar customer complaints, then escalate that over to a resolution on the operations side, and then feed that information into, say, an engineering and product development team for future enhancements and improvements. So how do you move that around? Are really the themes. I think no shocker here. We've seen these types of similar stats just to try to provoke some additional thoughts. The big one here, my eye kind of hops to right away. 64%. So 2 out of 3 people think that it's more important to have a positive experience over price. Price is not the only thing. I think it's a little cliche, but an old saying: take a look around the room. Nobody has the cheapest shoes they can find. So it's not always about price. So people want a premium experience, premium product, premium service, at a valued price, maybe not a cheap price. No one wants to be thought of as cheap, right? Why is collaboration important, and why this should be part of your thought process as you're designing what your customer engagement process looks like and what the customer experience looks like. Uh, I think for me, yeah, there's a lot of different means and ways you can look at this, and we'll talk more about that. But for me, I think it's just that one, breaking down the silos. If I've engaged with a company and they already know past contextual understanding or past history of the journey thus far, and they are acting intelligently on that in terms of information I'm providing them, and I don't have to repeat myself, and it's a quicker, easier path to resolution, I think that's the ultimate win. So where does this tie back to the whole Microsoft Dynamics data systems and their business application platform? Here's a little visual. I tend to like to think about breaking it down into three or four areas, and you really have your customer engagement aspects in blue, and more of your back end accounting and execution aspects of your traditional ERP around your accounting, payroll, those aspects in that fourth quadrant in the ERP. So where and how you can get started with this, whether that's a simple sales process of a lead approaching your business, kind of in the top left-hand side, or where we'll be kind of focusing, or some of the demo info that Thomas is going to go through is more on the service side around a case, or routing in terms of doing a service resolution. So case and service management are really two very core foundational areas of what Dynamics does quite well, and some things that you can start to really surface up and glean some pretty powerful information from there. Honestly, I think we kind of already touched at this, and I alluded to that earlier around the breaking down silos, but customers being impressed with how well you know them. It's not knowing them in a very creepy fashion, but certainly just understanding past historical relationship is really key there. So the more you can share that information across job functions, across different locations, across different aspects, and look at the customer from a, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but the 360-degree view, and just be as simple as possible to do business with, are really, I think, differentiators. So easier said than done, certainly, but those are some of the pieces here with a well thought out system thing, utilizing things like case management. That's where you can kind of get to. So this concept of case management, I want to drill a bit deeper on that and bring that up again, because I think as we get through the when Thomas takes over and kind of shows a bit around the demo area, you'll really see the case tracking process flow start to come to life. And really that's where, from a regulatory compliance, inspection, auditability, that type of, I'll say, more legal black and white aspects, there's certainly some great use cases. But overall, case management, this whole core case management aspect is phenomenal for what I'll just say is triggering the next best action. So information comes in based on the information I'm provided. Here's what we do next, then what we do next after that, then what we do next. We track resolution, and we can tie it all back to the individual company or customer who was making that request in the first place, and resolve the incident in a pretty streamlined and relatively linear fashion. Survey conducted by Microsoft here recently, 90% of customers expect an offer of self-service in a portal. I guess the only real message here is find ways to provide a self-service mechanism. It's a 24/7 world, like we said, that we live in, and the information is out there. And if you can empower people that you're doing business with to resolve things for themselves without being disconnected from them, or making them feel like you don't care or don't value the relationship there, I think that's the win, right? So if you can take pressure off your sales team or your customer service team or your technical resources to resolve issues, and do it in a more self-serve oriented first problem, and empower people to get the answers to that 1 and 200 level type of inquiry, and you're able to address some of the heavier weight stuff with a well thought out resource model. I think that's something you want to bear into mind and bear into consideration. So you can really start to scale more effectively with a self-service approach. And in particular, I don't think we'll touch on it too much today, but that whole concept of a self-serve portal or a web portal experience where, based on my relationship with you and your organization, I can log in, authenticate to a secure web area. I think the lines are blurring between, I'll say, the website and the personalized web experience in a web portal, where I can log in and see my past history, my account, my preferences, those types of things. That's really the starting point. So I wonder if in a few years' time we'll see a lot more overlap between that outward digital web experience and the portal experience for businesses. Data is business insights. Nothing new there. Realistically, if you can measure some of this stuff and provide intelligent information, well placed offers, certainly well thought out campaigns, and help structure the buying, align your messaging, your services, your products to the buying behaviors and the buyer journey. I think you're just going to be better off down the line. I know that sounds very high level and very blue sky and out there, but I think, just to really distill it down, everybody understands that it's easier to deepen an existing relationship than start one completely fresh. So maybe think about the people that you're working with already, and your best relationships and best customers are directly underneath your nose. Customer portals and boosting transparency. I touched on some of this earlier already, and it looks like, from just a quick stat there from American Express, they're already seeing a lot of that in terms of translating into customer retention. So if people can see, and you can open up the kimono, so to speak, for letting people serve themselves, but also have line of sight to what is going on your side. I think it ultimately builds trust, and that's really what people are after. I think thematically we touched on this as well, in terms of creating a bi-directional relationship. I just kind of think back to maybe 5 to 10 years ago, working with a lot of the business applications that are, nothing is really dramatically changed. Things have obviously evolved and grown, but as social was really starting to blossom, um, a lot of the dialogue was around social listening versus social engagement, which to me are, two very, very different things. So just because you're listening to people, uh, prove it and prove it in terms of communicating back and showing them that you're listening. So I'll kind of zero in here, and Thomas, please jump in wherever you feel like you'd like to. Um, the whole area we'll start to look at is the customer service agent experience and more of what the whole case and customer service management looks like on the Dynamics platform. But a couple core concepts is just making it as simple as possible. So, starting with basic information of what happened when and routing customer requests to the right person at the right time, who talked to whom when, those types of things, and surfacing it up in a somewhat consolidated view. So I think one of the starting exercises with people and starting out with these types of platforms is trying to do too much at once. So I'll say keep it very simple and then start to layer on, which I guess actually kind of segues nicely here to the whole concept of looking at Microsoft as a front to back business platform. um, this kind of concept of layering pieces on around by job function or by functional business area is something that we've found good success with over time, where you kind of start with the core pieces of really the heart of Microsoft stuff: core, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, collaboration pieces of OneDrive and SharePoint, Teams. Then how do you layer on basic sales functionality, basic customer service and case management, basic accounting around Business Central, and then how do you get into some of the more complex stuff around, marketing automation and structuring customer segmentation and building data warehouses and those types of things. So just utilizing the pieces, but doing it a bit at a time. And then lastly, so speaking of one of those kind of further down the line types of things, um, the virtual agents. So really where Microsoft investments have been in the last couple of years, Power Virtual Agents are starting to become really infused and baked in. And I think, Thomas, I won't steal too much of your thunder. You've got a couple samples here of those types of customer service cases and just taking us through that. So I'll pause here and hand over the baton to Mr. Young.
Thank you, Luke. Let me bring up my screen. Okay. So for today's demo, what I've got lined up for you are three different things from the Microsoft Power Platform. On the right, you'll see a portal. This is a Dynamics portal, and this is going to be the launching pad for what we're going to do in terms of the customer interacting with the support agent. So on the left-hand side here in this browser window, we have the omni-channel for customer service. I also have the Power Virtual Agent opened here that we'll go into in a little bit. For the actual demo today, we're going to be focusing more about this new Power Virtual Agent from Microsoft. Now, most of the time when you've got a customer coming in, they've got an inquiry or a question, those are fairly straightforward things. So chances are you're going to want that to be like automated or handled by the bot so that your actual skill personnel, your support desk or your support agents and customer service reps can focus more on the more complicated things that may need more interaction, and it just becomes a more personal experience for them. So for this demo here, we'll go into the customer service in Dynamics. We'll show you what the support agent's experience is. And then I want to spend the latter part of the demo just going through the Power Agent. So you can kind of see the cogs and the gears of what makes up the Power Agent. And in the demo here, I'll kind of reflect back in the customer interaction versus how that was actually configured to work. Okay, so I'm going to be pretty much myself here back and forth in terms of be the one asking the question on the right hand side and then be the one responding to that on the left hand side. But I want to be able to showcase the bot that has been configured to this environment. So down here, you'll see a little less chat. And that's one of the nice things here with using the Dynamics portal to host our chat. It's because things integrate quite readily and quite easily. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. And what you'll see here is the bot will pick up immediately when somebody clicks on that. And the way this is designed is that the bot's going to jump in and answer your questions based on how the bot's been designed to respond. And if there's anything that bot doesn't know how to do or that I want to talk to somebody immediately, then it'll transfer over to my support agent screen here, which is on the left-hand side. So before I even get into the customer support agent here, let's first look at what the bot is capable of doing. I've named this bot here Jeeves as the virtual agent that's been labeled here. So let's just say hello. Okay, so it's asking me what I want help with. So maybe I want to ask it, when are you open? And it's come back to tell me these are the hours for our Redmond hours, sorry, our Redmond store, and those are the Seattle stores. And it's asking whether I answer those questions or not. And as the person interacting here, I could type yes or no, or I can just click on yes here, and now go through. And we want the CSAT to come back on how people are finding their interaction with the bot. So in this case, pretty straightforward. I asked my question once, I got my answer. So we'll give this a 5. And then it comes and asks us if we want anything else. So in this case, I'll just say no. And that basically ends our session. So I will X this out. So that's completed one full session. Basically self-serve customer coming into this environment here, asking the question and getting the answers. So let's fire this up again. This time, the scenario here is this website gives me the ability to order things, and I'm saying that, hey, I haven't received my order. What is going on? So I'll put down, haven't received my order. Could you provide? And the bots have to come back and say, I don't understand. Because what I just posed there was intentional because the bot was never set up or designed to understand shipment and orders in that fashion. So it's done its best to give us different things I can choose from. But I'm going to try it again here. I'm going to say, no, my shipment was expected to arrive today, but I have not received it. Okay, so the bot is still not understanding me. So let me ask it one more time. ABC 1 through 3 was set to arrive on May 27, 2020. I have not received it. Could you provide shipment status? Okay, so I'm hitting everything it doesn't know, and this is unintentional here. So now if I do it one more time on the third strike, if you will, it's going to say something to the degree of, I don't know how to help you. Let me transfer you to somebody. The other way I can do this is just ask to immediately speak to a person. So I'm going to say speak to a person. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and transfer. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that there's a chat request coming from the visitor. So as the support agent, I'm going to go ahead and accept this because I may be doing other things, but this dialog tells me there's a call. If there are multiple support reps that are in this application monitoring calls, they'll all get it. So the first one that picks up will actually answer it. Okay, so as you can see on the right-hand side, the customer is able to see that this person, the support agent, has joined the conversation. And me as a support agent, I can look back to everything that this person has asked. So nothing is lost during this transfer. And what's really unique here in this example that I'm using is that I know what the person is asking just by looking at their interaction with the bot. And they were giving out some details here. So I could quickly go into my system and check to see why is this happening. So I'll say delivery never arrived. And we want to encourage the use of knowledge-based articles because it gives you a very consistent, here's my problem, and this is how we fix it, to every single customer service agent to ensure that you have a consistent experience and provide the same level of service. So now that I can see that, okay, if anybody asks this question, this is what's supposed to happen. So instead of asking somebody and turning them away that they need to support or to submit a case, what I can do is go ahead and say, hello, I can help you. Let me submit a request to track down your shipment AB3 that you were expected to receive today. So by doing so right there, me as the person that's asking this question going, hey, look at that. I don't have to repeat myself and give you the shipment number and tell you what's going on because your agent is already able to see everything that's been asked. So yes, there might be a little bit of pause here for the agent to just quickly read up. So it may be that we train this agent here to say, please give me a moment. Let me just review your conversation with the bot or something to that degree. And so having this interaction here where the human needs to jump in, it's either by design or it's also a fallback so that after 3 tries of the person trying to get a answer and it fails, they'll just automatically direct it to a person to pick up. So we'll just end this here and say thank you. Oops. And then we'll go ahead and just exit this chat. So as I exit this chat, you can see that this conversation has ended. Now, this turns to a peach or orange color. And what I can do here is provide additional comments to go with this conversation. This is an internal message, so even if the person was still online, they won't be able to see it. But it kind of closes the file, almost like adding an ending note to this conversation. And what I can put in here that is something like, we found the shipment was stuck in sorting. It has been expedited to go through to our courier service. And then once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and close this conversation. Okay, so while I was also on that conversation, I could have also went into cases here and submitted a case. So this gives me an immediate way to file at this task and come back to it later and know that I have to go follow up with this person with the contact information that I received and walk through this business process flow, as Luke mentioned earlier, to ensure that I'm following the procedure and the process to resolve this case. So in this case, somebody's package was stolen right off their porch from a porch pirate, so that we have a particular pattern and a consistent pattern to ensure that the support experience that's been given out by our customer service reps are the same regardless of what the request might be. So over here, I want to also show you that at the bottom of my dashboard, past conversations that we've had with visitors or logged in users are also available. So if I come down over here in this chat transcript, I can see the back and forth that's happening between the person and the support agent. So this also gives you a good kind of reflection on what's going on, and you can download this script within the omni-channel for customer service in terms of the dashboard. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea here in terms of back and forth between what we can do with the live chat, whether it's a person picking up right away or we put a bot in the front to triage and handle the majority of those simple requests, and then have a human jump in later to add a bit more personable or to handle some of the more complicated requests. So what I'd like to show you next here is the actual Power Virtual Agent itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just maximize my screen here now and come into the Power Agent designer surface. So the bot that you saw me use earlier was Jeeves, and you can name your bot whatever you like. If you got a company brand or a company mascot or something that reflects who you are, then you can definitely use that. Within the environment, you can have as many bots as you would like. So in this particular case, I'm in the Batak CS demo environment, and I actually have a couple of bots in this environment, both of course of demo nature. The idea here is that if you want to divvy up your workload, so that if you're got particular subject matter experts who are looking after one aspect of the customer service, then they can have their own bot and you can deploy them differently, or you can merge them everything together. So it's really up to you on how you want to employ the use of the bot. On the left-hand side are different areas that we can go into, and you can also see here that there's a lot of references to documentation to kind of get you started. Right here, I can customize that greeting so that it's not the Microsoft default that we see when the bot gets engaged into the conversation. Let me try reloading that here again. Okay, maybe the fact that I had been sitting on the screen here. I'll give this one more try. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, whenever somebody says any of these what's called trigger phrases, it will start the virtual agent up. And we can change this text to say whatever we want it to say, but it's the opening greeting in the conversation part. This next piece here is actually the more important aspect. When you have your subject matter experts who are designing and creating the conversations, we're telling the bot of the different trigger phrases. So if I go into this one here, where you saw me ask the question earlier, when are you open? Let's actually go into the design surface to give you an idea. This interface is a graphical interface, and it's really meant for your non-technical people, and there's no coding required. So any business person with a little training can quickly figure out how to design this in a graphical way. So we've got these trigger phrases that people can ask, and you would then put a message back to the person, and chances are you may have an answer in here, and we can always add any of these actions in between. And then you go ahead and end the conversation. And that's where you see it saying, did that answer your question? So that's also something that we designed it to do. If there's anybody here that has any familiarity with Power Automate, it will be something similar in terms of validating to make sure that what you've designed here all pass and there are no problems. So that's the topic area itself. So you can make them as simple as you want on the tone of like FAQ type of questions, or you can make them quite complicated. And you also decide when you want a particular person to sort of jump in to respond instead of having the bot to handle it. But should you decide that you want to handle the more complicated requests, you can actually leverage Power Automate as a way to connect to a back system to look up information, may it be shipping information or the status of something, based on what the user is telling you. Then you can look that information up. and then provide that back without having to tie up a person on a fairly simple request, so that your customer service reps can focus more on the more complicated requests, or from the requests of people who are just not wanting to talk to a bot, because there are quite a few of those. At times, they just want to talk to somebody quickly, but then we can also have people who self-serve. Over here, we've got some analytics. This is built in, and it's actually powered by Power BI dashboard. This gives you a really good summary of all the sessions that you've had, what the CSAT look like on average, and you can use this to assess whether or not your topics and how you've designed it are working out well or they're working out poorly, and what the person's experience is with the bot, so that you can go back and update, tweak your topics to improve and optimize its use. So down here, you can see that these are some of the topics that were being hit by the visitors or the people who were accessing or communicating with the bot. If I jump over here to the customer satisfaction, we can see, I'll make this a little bigger. The topics, these are all just out of the box topics, but the names of the topics, how many sessions hit these topics, and based on asking the person if they answered their question or not, we have a resolution rate. Abandon rate would be if I engage the bot and decide to not even continue my conversation and leave the page or exit the website or end the chat. That would qualify as a abandoned conversation. Escalator rate would just be tagged when the level of customer service given from the bot is not covering what they're asking, so we need to put a person into the picture. And then the average CSAT score. So if there were two of those, that's going to average out to about 8. This link will let me go and see more details on that particular topic, on how it did in terms of customer service satisfaction and other analytics associated with it. We also have session data. So if you don't have this tied to, say, customer service in the Dynamics environment, you could download the chat transcript. So between this period, there could have been multiple sessions. So this allows us to download, and what you'll actually get is a CSV file that you could open in Excel, and then you can see all the conversation or all the sessions that happen within this time frame. And yet we can change this to a different time frame if we need to. But all the conversations are basically available in this download here of a CSV file. And then lastly, here in the analytics, we can see that we have 10 sessions. The way the subscription work for the Power Virtual Agent is by chat sessions. So in this particular case, I only hit 10. You can buy them in 10,000 conversations on a per tenant basis. So it gives you an idea of how often it's being used to also watch that you don't go over your subscription quota. Okay, so just wrapping up here, when you're working with your bot and you're ready to use it, there are a couple of things that you want to do. One is you want to publish it so that it basically finalizes your change. And the other one is decide where you want to post your bot. So if you were to do this on a website, what you'll end up doing is getting a iframe script that you can put on your public website, that you can put in a Microsoft Portals environment. Some of these are some of the other channels that you can use to publish your bot. And that is a quick overview of the different components and how the Power Virtual Agent can aid you in providing some customer support. Luke, I will turn that back
Awesome.
to you.
Thank you, Thomas. I'll ask one question, kind of the $1,000,000 question that everyone seems to think. In your opinion, what's innovative about this in terms of the virtual agent stuff and Jeeves that is maybe different from previous platforms that are out there or other things you've used in your career?
Well, the one thing about this that Microsoft designed is that there's actually a lot of Azure artificial intelligence and learning behind the scenes. But the nice thing is that this is a fully graphical tool. It requires no code, and you can get your business um, subject matter experts to come in here and put this together, and it's very straightforward to use. So in the example or in the demo today, I've actually pulled in 3 different Power Platform, including the Power Agent, into play. But if you don't have customer service from Dynamics or portals, this will work as well. Um, when we have this bot here as you're building it, we can actually test it real time. So you don't actually have to wait until you publish it to make sure that everything's working properly. You can actually come in here and confirm that everything's flowing correctly. And if I want to track it more, it will actually allow me to see within my topic and how I've designed it in the canvas as I flow from top to bottom of where it's hitting, so I can ensure that things are working the way I expect them to work.
Nice. Well, I think that kind of wraps things up here for this afternoon. Maybe I'll just pop up one little closing slide here for everyone to see. A couple of thoughts and resources to check out if you're interested. Do hop online. Earlier in the month of May, Microsoft did the Business Applications Summit. A lot of those recordings are available for review on your own time. Speaking of the whole self-serve on your own 24/7, there's some great content there. So endless hours and hours of good content. Of course, Microsoft is doing a lot of the Power Virtual Agents and Power App and Power Platform services for free here for 6 months in certain industries, given the COVID circumstances. So do check that out. And of course, if you want to get involved or in touch on anything further, feel free. So um, encourage you to join us next Wednesday afternoon, June 3rd. We'll be digging deeper into the Microsoft Portal experience. So do check that out. And thanks very much for joining us this afternoon.